The Rural Development Institute envisions a world free of poverty. And we are making that vision a reality by helping the world's poorest people get secure rights to land, the most basic and powerful asset to lift themselves from poverty. It all began with the vision of Roy Prosterman. Watching the devastating effects of the Vietnam War, Roy had an idea. Leaving behind his Wall Street law career, Roy found himself standing in a rice paddy drafting legislation that provided land ownership to poor, landless, rural families. That law helped over 1 million impoverished families get a piece of land to call their own. Now, over 40 years later, RDI has partnered with governments in over 45 countries to secure land rights for over 400 million of the world's poorest people.
Land is the most fundamental asset for most of the poor in most of the developing world.
Land is the main asset. It's the source of nutrition, it's the source of wealth, it's a source of income, it's a source of status.
Secure land rights provide the poorest of the poor with stability, dignity, and hope.
Roy's having perceived the really gigantic connection between ownership and productivity, he and RDI have shown what wonders can be wrought from a piece of land when the people who till it also own it.
Of the world's poorest people, the majority are women.
In many developing countries, women represent the overwhelming majority of agricultural production. Yet they only own about 2% of the world's land. That is an inequality that we try and focus in on.
In many countries, women and girls do not have equal rights to property. They are property. If their husbands die or abandon them, they lose their home, source of food, and income. Many turn to prostitution to survive, increasing the risk of HIV/AIDS. Secure land rights enable women to care for their families and thrive.
So before you can give a woman a loan to help her lift herself out of poverty, first she has to have land. If she doesn't have land, she can't use a loan to buy herself a sewing machine to start a business or to raise a cow to sell milk in the marketplace. You've got to have land first.
In order to secure land rights for women and their families, RDI partners with local and national governments.
Ultimately, land rights are given by governments, so RDI itself can't give land rights. We can only make recommendations to the government as to what they should do, and then assist or help them in doing it.
RDI is sought after by foreign governments, aid agencies, and NGOs for our insight, expertise, and clarity on land issues and policy. It begins with our unique and personal approach to fieldwork.
We go out to the villages and typically will interview a very substantial number of poor families, landless families.
We become the bridge between the poor people we're trying to benefit and the policymakers who are really in a position to provide them opportunity.
In addition, RDI helps local communities to gain legal literacy and understand their rights. With legal empowerment, families can seize the opportunities to improve their lives. Last year, we introduced you to Padma. Padma was living on 8 rupees a day, barely 20 cents. When we asked Padma how she could feed her family on so little, she answered, "I couldn't." Land was her opportunity. She knew that with the income she could generate from just 1/10 of an acre, she could feed her children and send them to school. But in addition to just growing food, Padma had another plan: flowers. Her new land was near a temple, and with the number of festivals that are common in her nation, jasmine secured her future. Now Padma's hope has blossomed. When we returned to talk with Padma, we found her life transformed. She earns 200 rupees a day. She was able to send her daughters to school. And when her eldest daughter fell ill last year, Padma was able to pay for her medical care. She even started saving for her grandchildren. Today, 3 generations of Padma's family are thriving and have a bright future. Padma is respected by both men and women in her village for helping to bring economic prosperity to her community. For Padma, a little land truly went a long way.
RDI's work is to ensure that families get what they need to lift themselves out of poverty.
RDI is building a safer, more just world, and secure land rights are the foundation. Education, clean water, healthcare, and access to credit can build upon that foundation, creating a future full of opportunity.
From very early days, I was impressed by the theme on which Roy and his people were working. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has very high standards when it comes to funding partnerships. RDI has leveraged our support to produce really dramatic results.
In over 45 countries, RDI has changed the lives of 400 million people. With secure land rights, families have food security and better nutrition, and are able to send their children to school. They have become stewards of their land and entrepreneurs who are creating wealth in their communities. But there is still work to be done. At least 1 billion rural poor people around the world do not have secure rights to land. Secure land rights can change their futures and lay the foundation for a healthier, more just world. Imagine how many other Padmas are out there. Now you can help change their lives and change our world. Join RDI and help us create a safer, healthier world. It's amazing what a little land can do.